Hey guys, we're up here at the City Hall today. It's Thursday, April 19th. It's now 12:50 in the afternoon. We're going to have a meeting with the city manager. We've got some questions that we're going to be going over with him about the open records request, the investigation that he conducted, and the notes that he had on March 9th. We did see a cameraman walk in as we arrived here. There's the city manager in here. Is him? Get him off the door for him. Down here.
Oh, beautiful.
Right.
I did.
Thank you. Job announcements. Thank you.
Put that link in, and then that way it will automatically take them.
Our appointment's not till 1. We're a few minutes early. We'll give you a chance to settle in for. Cameraman loves the cows. So do some of the subscribers. That camera's pointing down. Yeah. So it looks like they brought their own camera crew today. I don't know why you think they got a camera today. What do you think, subscribers? Or viewers? We are going to be filing the open records request to find out what the charge is on that to have the camera crew here today. We'll be filing that verbally. Ready? Whenever you want. Ready? Okay. Thank you.
So, that's why I'm asking about typing smoke. No, I haven't gotten anything else yet. I just thought that.
Have a seat. You look like Alex.
Really?
Yeah. Name's not Alex, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
The mayor has requested that all these meetings from now on be videotaped.
Oh, well, that's good because I've been doing that from the get-go.
Yes, we know.
Okay. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Those are the records from the last meeting on the 9th we had.
This is what you asked for, which you also looked at before.
Okay.
These are some of the subsequent ones. This is one with Ms. Duffin with the attached information.
Okay. I haven't had a chance to look at this one yet. So this is the actual first statement.
No. Well, yeah, it is her
Yeah,
statement, her
from-
email that she sent.
Ms. Duffin to you about me. I'd like to advise you that I feel threatened and harassed by the above named individual who has been in our office multiple times in reference to citizen complaints and open records request. This is dated March 12th. Multiple times would have been, at that time, one time that she witnessed by that date. No, twice that she dealt with me with open record requests. Okay. Part-time secretary Cindy Manger also expressed to me that she feels the same way. That's hearsay. After two of these incidents, she says too, I received private messages through my Facebook Messenger account. These messages appear to have come from two of my friends, and both have YouTube videos attached to the caption, OMG, it's you. I did not open either of these videos. I am certain that neither one of these messages actually came from my friends. However, it's impossible to prove who they did come from. Coincidence maybe, but I'm concerned nevertheless to Mr. Visitor office. The female civilians are the only ones here reading him and his companion. You know, Mr. Dunn and his companion have no less than 2, sometimes 3 cameras pointed at us the entire time that we were here. And it's 3, not 2. Well, I take it back. It is 2 cameras, sometimes a cell phone. I understand that this is a public facility that is justified. They have an knowledge. It's extremely harassing, present, and persistent. I've not watched numerous videos Mr. Dunn posts on YouTube. However, I've been told that the comments, and I think that's inflammatory, vulgar. I like the fact Mr. Dunn has posted my picture, my name, and the red line here at this department. I am experiencing these this I've felt before. Okay. So now we have her statement dated March 12th. To the reason why. Okay. A couple things real quick. So I don't get off topic. I've got some notes here that I want to go over with you. And I'm going to come back and address this, because this is new information as well, too. Just make sure that we're on the same page here, that this meeting was set up to go over the records that we viewed last week. They indicated your investigation to the open record violation. Also asked a question about Matthew Holbert's role within the city. And you made it clear that we were already viewing the records that day, so I want to make sure that we have time to address that as well, too. So we're going to go with open record violations that involve Major Phelps, the investigation part. The failure portion, because according to your notes as well too, that you decided that you didn't want to hold them accountable for their actions, and also as far as the investigation notes that was submitted to me. When we first met, I gave you a link to the encounter on February 8th, which was listed day 3 return video on the YouTube link. You said that you didn't watch that. Did you watch that in its entirety?
I watched most of it, yes.
Okay, so you didn't even bother watching its entirety as requested. Okay. So, without watching the video in its entirety, how did you determine that there was absolutely no violations of the law or policies conducted if you didn't watch the video in its entirety?
Because I watched the majority of the video, and it was my interpretation that he was not violating the law as the law specifies for the punishment.
You mean 50-18-70B, it says request may be made to the study records orally in writing, which I had in writing, he accepted it. 50-18-74A, any person or entity knowingly or willfully violating this provision by failing or refusing to provide access to records, which he did, by knowingly and willfully failing to refuse or to provide access to such records within the time limits by not accepting.
It's not my interpretation that he was knowingly and willingly not providing you the information.
The statement when I asked him, I said, are you telling her that she cannot accept a FOIA request from a citizen? He says, yes. Sir, I don't believe that you can do that. Well, I just did. That is pretty blatantly knowingly.
That's your interpretation. That was not mine.
Okay. Well, it's not interpretation. It's what the law says.
No, sir.
Okay. And we're not.
You know, we can maybe cut a little closer on that with this. Okay. If you believe that there's been something illegally done, you have a right to pursue that through the district attorney's office or an attorney.
I also have the
You
right
are
to
coming
address
in.
my government.
Yes, you
and
do.
grievance.
And you are coming in and you are asking me my rationale or my reason for not taking any action against Major Phelps. I've advised you that. You've asked to take a look at whatever documentation there is. I've provided that. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions, but when you keep going back on the same thing, I mean, I'm not changing my opinion. You have yours.
You can. I'm not asking you to change your opinion. I'm trying to.
I'm telling you that I do not believe that Major Phelps violated the law.
Okay. Then what provisions of law or Open Records Act allows somebody to refuse to accept the Open Records request? There is no provision in the law, so is there a policy? And if policy...
My interpretation with the tape was that there was a lot of mix and confusion between your complaint filing process that you want to do and your request for open records.
Then I don't believe that you watched the video at the beginning because...
Yes, I did. I watched it right at the beginning.
Okay, but, well then you would have seen that I gave Major Phelps the Open Records request for the request to view the fee schedule, which he says, we have a little dialogue about that, you have to tell him the fee schedule, he acknowledges that. Then he also talked about the Open Records request to view the repair documents for the patrol car, which he acknowledged that as well too.
Okay.
He accepted both of those requests from me in his hand. Acknowledged them, accepted them. Then we went into the complaint portion of the process, which we never actually got to that part because I wasn't able to get to the point of telling him that because he decided to change the word from process to procedures and demanded sign the affidavit. And then after telling Chief that I had a complaint to submit against the Major, he no longer wanted to help. And then the papers all started coming back to me. Okay, now he's already received the Open Records request, acknowledged it verbally, because the law says orally or in writing. He accepted it in writing, he accepted it orally, and then he refused to take them. He gave them back, and then he refused to allow the other people to accept it. Now,
No, you don't know that. That's your assumption that he refused.
are you telling her that she cannot take these FOIA requests from a citizen? Yes. That's not an assumption, that's a statement that he made. Sir, you cannot, I don't believe you can legally do that. Well, I just did. Those are the facts. I'm sorry. He also told Corporal O'Rourke as well too, that not to answer any questions about open records requests, which again, that's another portion of that as well too. In either case, getting off the dialogue here. It's not dialogue, but the questions I wanted to ask you. And going back to, you said that there was no violations of the law or policies. My questions are, what laws or policies allow them not to accept open records requests? And you did not have an answer for that. You said it was your interpretation that papers got mixed up, even though he actually accepted them. He gave them back to me, and him telling the other people not to accept my request, not take anything, didn't violate law or policy. What about as far as what policies or laws allow an officer to make false statements in a report? Because when we talked about the open records request memo requests, not request, but complaint memos that were sent back as a response to a complaint form, you said that those are public documents. Okay, so he is submitting and creating a public form for public record. So what policy or law allows an officer to falsify information?
I don't know whether the information is falsified or not.
Well, then you didn't watch the video.
Your video, your interpretation of the video.
The video that I posted was its entirety, from the moment I entered to the moment that I exited.
Well, I saw what I felt was necessary relative to what your original concern and complaint was that came to me.
That they
if you are questioning some of the information in the open records document that's provided to you, that's fine. Then you can follow up and indicate what you think is erroneous or false in the document.
Which I addressed that with you. I believe that was
I have provided to you everything that you have asked for on the open records. You can take a look at that and you can have your own interpretation of that.
Actually, we'll get to that statement. Actually, no, we'll address that statement now.
Sure.
No, you have not.
What have I not provided to you open records that you asked for?
I had submitted an open records request to you. That would have been dated. Trying to make sure I got the right date here. I don't know if I have the exact date here. On 3/21/2018, that I requested to have for the information regarding to all your notes that pertaining to the investigation. You forward that message over to Matthew Holbert, who then made me resubmit the request back to him, which then he sent it back to you to request that information. And according to his memo here that I printed right off from there that he sent to me, he said there were no additional records relative to these interviews. They only included one page, which was this page here. This is the only information that is provided to me.
That was what you asked for.
That pertained to your investigation on that. And all
relative to that date, yes, that's right.
To the open record violation, not to a specific date, to the open record
investigation. My understanding of what you asked for in that open records request, that was what was provided.
Also, there was another thing that I noticed in here too as well, too, dated 3/15. I'm not sure which one, which stack that's in, but dated 3/15 as well too. When I initially gave you my statement, it said that Major Phelps had contacted or had somebody contact the municipal court clerk's office and advised them not to respond and not to take my open records request. That was part of the investigation as well too. That paperwork was not provided in the open records request.
No, sir. No, that's absolutely false.
No, it's not.
Every bit of paperwork was provided to you that you asked for.
Not the notes. I never asked you for all notes.
I am telling you, everything I have is there. If you want more notes, I can't give them to you. They don't exist.
You gave me these notes to view.
I
on
gave
the
you
April
what you
12th.
asked for.
On April 12th.
Every single time I gave you what you asked for.
So you did not, because
Okay.
on March 21st, when I filed the open records request for all the information pertaining to the investigation, as I just said, you did not provide this attachment here, which in this note here
That's
says,
not what was asked for.
and all subsequent information that pertained to the
But
investigation.
you asked for the investigation. The first investigation is the information which you have in those papers there. That's
Okay.
what you asked for. That's what you got.
That's not what I asked for.
Yes, it is.
I've got the paperwork, and I asked for everything else that was subsequent to the investigation.
And that's what I'm providing to you now.
Now, after the fact of it was filed on March 21st.
But you, wait a minute now.
Okay.
You asked for the investigation relative to that. That's this sheet.
One sheet.
You subsequently have come back for this meeting to ask what else may be involved with that. That's this.
I filed,
This memo
no.
from Ms. Duffin is not directly related to your request on the investigation for Major Phelps.
Now,
You were provided that when you were asked for that.
right. The note dated 3/12/2018 right here.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked at this note several times here.
Yes?
Can you please point out in any section of this note here that has anything to do with an open records violation investigation?
I never
Because-
said it did. I provided to you what you asked for. The primary thing on this note was, when I asked, as part of this portion, Ms. Duffin, if the major had told her to do anything relative to denying your turning in an open records request, the answer was no.
This here is not stating any of that.
Well,
Okay.
I'm advising you what happened. You asked for a note. It may not be what it is that you're looking for. If I ask somebody and they give me an answer, I won't necessarily make a note on that.
But you're not answering the question that I asked. I asked for your investigation notes pertaining to the investigation.
I have
of
given
the
you all the notes and records there are.
if you let me finish my
Sure.
statement. On March 21st, I requested to view the records that pertaining to the investigation of the open record violation.
Mm-hmm.
Then one-page note that was provided to me was this one page right here. There is nothing on this one page that has anything to do with anything that says open records violations or an investigation at all. The only thing that says on here is that Miss Janet was scared of me.
Okay?
Okay?
But
Now,
at that time, I asked her. It
But
may
there's-
not be on there, but I asked her as a follow-up.
The follow-up, let me see if I can find that. I want to mix pages up here, so this is mine. The follow-up on that one, I don't see all the papers in there. You had the hand note dated 3/15. That had what was that 3 or 2/18 here?
Can't tell, looking upside down. 2.
Full citizen. What is that?
Full citizen data request to his email. Janet called Miriam, advised request to police department.
And that's attached to this is that very lengthy statement that I gave, talking about the violations that occur. provisions of the law. .218. So, would you say that this is one of the notes that pertains to the investigation as well, too?
As far as I know.
Okay.
Although actually all it is, I think, is just discussion on when you came in. Or follow-up on that.
Yeah, I believe that would still be considered part of that. Since it does pertain to me asking you, it's attached to me asking you to look into the open records law being broken in that statement there. So that wasn't provided, that note section was. Again, your lawyer only sent this one page here, not this. This, again, asked for all supplemental data as well, too. Supplemental data may not have been the exact word that I used, but when it says that she's scared of me here, and there's a statement that's attached to that, that should have been accompanied with that, and it wasn't. This is her statement here as well. And I do have some issues with that, but that's with her, and I don't need to address that with you at this point, I don't believe. Anyway, I just wanted to point out real quick, whether you believe it or not, you said you have your own opinion of the facts. I'm stating verbally to you, and as I have in writing as well too, Manger refused to take my open records request that day.
I understand that. You've made that clear from day one.
Okay. He also told the custodian of records, which was Cindy Manger, not to take my open records request. Okay. He also told Corporal Orari not to answer my questions about open records request. And then there was a phone call. Now you said, Janet said that she called and that nothing had anything to do with the Manger. However, open records requests that I filed for the phone records indicated that both Major Phelps and Janet Duffin both called the court clerk's office during that exact time frame that I was in the office. Now, Janet may have called, may have, Major may have called first and then had Janet, I don't know. But open records requests for the phone records indicate both of them did.
That's not my understanding.
Well, if you, from my understanding, from the municipal court clerk's office, when I went to go pick up my open records request for the phone records, they gave me a statement of a charge of $70.20 in order to view those records.
Mm-hmm.
There was a statement on there that said both phone numbers, listed the numbers on there, that came from Major Phelps' office and Miss Janet Duffin's. That was the top line of the intro of that open records request response to me.
There are two lines, I'm sure, that go there, sure.
Right. But, well...
That doesn't indicate that they were used at that particular time.
During the time frame that I requested, within the 5-minute time window that I was there, there was no other phone call that was received or called as recorded in the video. There was no other phone calls that came in during that time. Since prior to her taking that phone call and saying, we don't have a response for your questions, sir, or after that. So, there's a little bit of conflicting information there. Open records requested, both of them called. You're saying Janet Duffin is making a clear statement that she's taking full responsibility of contacting the municipal court clerk's office. And that was what she relayed to you. I'll have to take your word for that at this point. And we'll move on from there. The other thing as well, too, is that I came to you as well to advise you that the open records request that I submitted to them to view the repair documents, that Major Phelps clearly says that the equipment had been repaired, and that if I wanted to see those repair documents, I needed to submit an open records request. I came to you to let you know that the time frame had expired within the 3 days to respond to that. You said, is there anything else you want me to do other than advise me? Well, again, I'm advising you that the law was broken again, just like I have before that you have a difference of opinion on. And that's all I can do is let you know. I'm trying to work with the city here, and I don't think y'all understand this. I'm trying to work with you guys to fix these open records issues. I'm not trying to be this person that's looking to entrap people or like how other people do. I'm trying to make things better for us all, and I really am trying to work with you guys. But I'm being dealt with lies, and I guess I'll say, in my opinion, lies, cover-ups, falsified information, openly and blatantly breaking the Open Records Act, as I understand it here. You know, you made it clear in one of the conversations that I'm not an attorney, I'm only entitled to my opinion. But you don't have to be an attorney in order to read the law and understand what the law says. But we'll move on from there. Again, back to the policy and laws over here in the email that we had, that you said that Manger Phelps did not break any policies or laws pertaining to the Open Records Act or anything else that pertained to the February 8, 2018 encounter that we had, which was the day 3 video that I gave you. Again, he refused to take Open Records requests. The law says that he has to take them. He accepted them first, and then he gave them back. I don't know that there's a provision in the law that says you can take them, accept them, verbally accept them, and then say, well, no, we're not going to take them now. I'm not aware of any laws or policies that says that you can prevent other people from taking an Open Records request. The law says that the Open Records can be given orally or in writing, and it can be made to the custodian of records. I thought an Open Records request, which Chief Lynn replied to, saying that Ms. Janet Duffin and Cindy Manger both are the custodian of records over there. So my request to file my Open Records request with both of them was at the right and appropriate places. Both of them, under the advisement or direction, or whatever terminology you want to use there, of Manger Phelps, was told not to accept my Open Records request. Now, as the custodian of records, they're supposed to accept that. Manger accepted and they're given back. Both of them are supposed to accept it because they're the custodian of records. Ms. Janet Duffin is the lead custodian of records of the police department, according to Chief Lynn. Cindy Manger is the backup. So I addressed with Cindy. She didn't take it. Well, Manger interrupted and said she's not taking anything from you at this time. I said, you tell him that she can't take any Open Records from a public citizen. He said yes. And I said, I don't think you can do that legally. Well, I just did. As he walked into his office, I re-engaged with Cindy and asked her again for a second time, can you take it? Open Records says, I'm not trying to get you in trouble or anything, but I do want to submit my Open Records request with you. You took it from me last time. And she did. She took my request in September, initially when I submitted the one that I actually signed. And she said, I don't know the exact word, you have to go back to the video, but it was something to the effect, I don't do that, and he's my supervisor. To me, that seemed that he was using his position of authority, and that she took that as an actual order of not accepting that, although she's a custodian of records. Ms. Janet Duffin had referred, when I asked her, as the lead records lady, records clerk, said that she had nothing to do with that. That was her first statement when I asked her, do you accept them? She said, I don't have anything to do with that. I'd come back and go back and, to the court and then come back over there. Then all of a sudden now she accepts. She does take them. And then I told her I have one filled out. She's talking over me, and then she doesn't want to accept them anymore. My written one that I had already prepared, and she said that it had to be signed and notarized. And I said, ma'am, actually they don't have to be signed because you can give records orally as well too. But she says she didn't want to have anything to do with that, and she's not responding to me, and walks away and ignores me. So that in itself is an Open Records violation as well too. And again, I mean, I don't know where, and you can say my opinion, but based off the video evidence that I have here, and the paperwork that Major Phelps filled out for the response to the complaint, the information that he wrote up in his report does not match up with what the actual incident occurred during that day, by saying that he was never advised what the complaint originally was. I never told him any information. On the very first video that I also included on the, which was on February 5th, he stated several times about, I'm going to look into this equipment, I'm going to look into this equipment. You know, if you want me to look into this equipment, or you want me to look into our stuff, you know, you have to give me that. I mean, it's said several times over. So he clearly knew that. I created a video for you that I tried to give, to show you, I believe it was on March 9th as well too. That I made several attempts to try to show you exactly where I condensed the video down, to show you exactly where the violations of the Open Records Act occurred, so that you didn't get lost in all the other commotion that was going on, so that you could make it easier for you to understand what I'm trying to express to you. And for whatever reason, you decided you didn't want to look at it. And I asked one last time, and you said no. But those are the statements of the facts of what happened as viewed and seen by the recorded evidence. Again, I don't believe that my original request, that was dated on the 21st, that asked you for all information pertaining to the investigation, was provided, because when we looked at the information on April 12th, we found other information that actually links and pertains to the investigation that occurred. And, you know, from my understanding of the law as well too, that when I requested for any and all records that pertained to that information, and not all the information is provided, or a reason why it's legally exempt from disclosure, that's a violation of the Open Records Act as well too. I'm not sure if you're aware of that or not, but I'm advising you of that. Now I want to move on to Mr. Matthew Holbert, because this has been the most confusing part of the process since you've implemented him into this process. Matthew Holbert responded to me out of the blue.
Are we done?
No.
My records here?
No, I'm probably going to come back to that.
Okay.
Okay. You sent the information over to Matthew Holbert when I asked you who did you investigate for the Open Records request violations, when you said, when you made your determination that nothing had been broken as far as laws or policies. And then he replies to me and says that I have to now send out all the requests through him that pertain to that. First of all, that's not true by law, but he can make the statement if he wants to, and then he backs off that statement and says you can submit it to anybody. But he addresses himself as a private lawyer, that he's a private person, that he has nothing to do. He says that he stated that he was not an employee of the city of Perry, nor does he serve in a nor does he serve in a public service or serve in a public role, and he affirmed that his law firm is the same. Now, the Hometown Journal News, the one right across the street here that does most of the reporting in Perry, on January 6, 2018, published an article that stated that the Councilman Riley Hunt officially opened a meeting and called upon the Assistant City Attorney, Matthew Holbert, to swear in Jimmy Fairclough for his third consecutive term. The city has given the authority for him to represent on behalf of the city underneath Section 22-5, jurisdictions, duties, and authorities, and Section 253, the oath of office for that, and for the minutes of the City Council dated January 2nd, 2018, Section 2, where the elected official was sworn in ceremony portion, where he swore in, where everybody was sworn in. He was sworn in as the city attorney. Now, I've asked that question about 5 different times.
His firm was
He was appointed.
appointed as the city's legal
Okay.
representation, yes.
But the city council opens up by calling, and this is according to minutes, by calling on the assistant city attorney, Matthew Holman. Okay? Now, I've asked several different ways, because I know that once you interject a lawyer, you have to be very specific. You have to ask every shape, form, fashion of some different possibilities that it could be, because if you don't, it gives them some plausibility of wiggle room to get out of answering the question. So that's why I asked specifically if he served in a public role.
And I believe he addressed that too.
He says he does not.
Okay.
His statement says, I do not serve in a public role, nor am I in public service, nor am I an employee of the city.
All of which are correct. He is not an employee of the city.
He was appointed by the city council.
His firm was appointed.
Okay. He was appointed as the assistant city attorney.
That's how we refer to him, yes.
Okay. That's how the minutes record it. I don't know. I mean, if you refer to him as one thing and he's not, then the minutes have got him.
The question that you asked about was answered by Mr. Holbert.
Mr. Holbert's answered that question 4 different ways and about 3 different responses on different things.
And are any of them any different?
Yes, they're all different.
Okay, how so?
Well, one...
Did he say he was a city employee in one and then not a city employee in the other?
I don't have those paperwork. I can get.
Well, I can assure you he did not.
I can assure you that the statements contradict each other.
I don't believe so.
Well,
but
I'll be happy to provide you the memo on
sure,
that.
that'd be fine.
So you need memos from the city attorney.
Well, let me make it maybe a little easier for you, though you can use them as a reference. You can just tell me where you think that he has been contradictory with his own information he sent to you based on what you asked for.
As far as his role, an appointed...
You asked if he is a city employee. The answer is no.
Does he serve in any official capacity? That was
Does
another
he
part.
serve in any official capacity?
Yeah, to the city of
He
Fair.
is the person designated by his firm
Mhm.
to come to the council meetings and handle city litigation. Just like when you hire your attorney or you hire a firm.
I haven't hired an attorney.
I'm not saying that you have, but if you did.
Well, you've alluded to that several times about me getting an attorney and suing you. And
I have
so,
advised you, just like anyone else, that that is your right if you feel that you have been treated unfairly or you think there's some violation of the law.
But
That's the standard process.
But would it have been better to say, hey, let's work together and see if we can figure this out instead of going straight to just suing us? I mean, that's just my opinion.
No, I'm not saying necessarily just suing you. What I do sense is that you are not satisfied with the answer that you've gotten from the city staff. And you have every right to do that.
What I'm not, I won't say necessarily satisfied, is since our interactions have occurred, it all started off with Manger's lack of, we'll call it public speaking skills or dealing with the public or whatever, not following procedures by taking a complaint like I asked him for originally. I mean, you said you could find any policy violations. I thought officially by saying I want to submit a official complaint.
You asked the complaint process,
I'm talking about on
you were advised about
I'm
that,
talking about the first.
but I'm talking about the video that I saw, the major one.
Now, I provided you 2 videos.
You were asked,
Okay.
you were advised the process, and you did not choose that process.
Okay. Now, see, you're not listening to what I'm saying. You're taking a video that I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the very first encounter,
Mm-hmm.
which was the one that was February 5th encounter that I had.
Okay, but I'm not, well, you're right.
Okay.
What I'm referencing is when you came to me because you said Major Phelps refused to take your open records request.
That is correct.
When you came to me,
That is
okay?
correct.
Now, when you came to me and advised you the situation, I took it. So the city did take your request. I also said I'd look into the situation at your request for Major Phelps on that date,
The city.
which was done.
Okay, so you're saying because Major Phelps denied my request, I had to come over here, and because you accepted.
No, I'm not saying
No.
you had to.
No,
What I'm saying
no.
is you did.
Please let me finish my statement.
Mhm.
Real quick. So what you're saying is because Major Phelps denied anybody from taking my open record request, I left that department and came over here looking to file a complaint against that for him not taking my complaint, which is a direct violation of the Open Records Act. And while we were discussing, we talked about open records, and because I gave them to you, you're saying that now nullifies his actions as saying the request was completed as acceptance?
I'm saying that the
So that's
city
what you
did
just said.
take your open records request.
Okay. And I'll give you that. The city did. The Perry Police Department, where I submitted it, did not.
And you asked me to check into that.
Okay. So
And that was done.
now, okay. So you checked in. Did they on February 8th accept my open records request from me when I submitted it?
There was an
Okay.
awful lot of confusion.
So
So apparently they did not.
okay. At any point did you see here in the video when I asked Major, did you accept? Are you telling her not to accept? open
I
records?
heard a lot of back and forth, yes.
That's not what I asked. Did you hear Major
I
say
heard a lot of
specifically?
back and forth.
Back and forth.
Like you stated yourself, it was
Okay.
a lot of confusion in there.
Talking-
I agree.
Okay, now you're talking the back and forth took place mostly inside the office. I'm referring to outside of his office when we're in front of Cindy's desk. In front of Miss Cindy's desk, did you see the part of the video where he says she's not taking any papers from you at this time? Because you said you watched part of it. I don't know how much you watched. I don't know if you watched just the
I
first 3
consider
minutes
that
or
to be
5
part
minutes.
of the whole process and the confusion that was there. It was very difficult to determine, in my opinion, between your complaints and your open records requests.
He does like this to the video like this and says, yeah, okay, I'm talking about the open record request. He shows the camera the open record request.
Fine.
Okay, so, I mean, I don't, if you're that confused on which, if he accepted both of them from the get-go, and then he says at the desk that she's not taking it, and you can't legally do it, and I just did, and okay, that just doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I don't mean any disrespect, that seems like willful ignorance, just overlooking that.
You're welcome
Okay.
to your opinion, like I've always said.
Okay, and I'm sure that's going to be shared by many on that. Let's move on from this point. Going back to what my original complaint was on February 5th, is that when in September, I had filed an open records request to get the DVD or body camera footage and video footage from the patrol car. The original request was done by Captain Buck. Captain Buck printed the disc and did not include every bit of the video and audio that was supposed to have been on there. That is a violation of the Open Records Act as well too. I came back to address it because of the audio. When he pulled up on the computer, pulled up the information to show me the different clips there was a thumbnail that I didn't recognize from the disc that he gave me. He pulled it up, he reprinted it, I got home and viewed it. It was more footage and audio that wasn't given in the original request. I contacted Chief to let him know that the equipment wasn't working in the car, because there was no audio whatsoever in the patrol car. The patrol car did not record audio. The police officer's body camera that he had on from the first video that was released stops with him on the back side of the patrol car, and it cuts off. He doesn't physically cut off. They cut it off from the recording that they released to me. The second print shows him going all the way in, and then there's audio that's recorded from inside. My concern was that the audio wasn't working in the car. That was what I was addressing, that I addressed with Chief. Now, I've worked with the government. I was in the military. I've worked with government as a civil servant, and I understand how red tape works. I understood that if there was a problem with the equipment, that it would take weeks to months to have fixed. That's just how it works with the government process. So I gave what I thought was enough time, based off of past experience with the logistics of that background that I have in civil service, the time frame that I thought it would take for them to follow up on repairs and have equipment repaired and the equipment to come back to have it checked out. That's when I came back in February to follow up on that. And I also wanted to have it logged that the equipment did not function properly, in case it tends to be a problematic thing going over with the Perry Police Department. I'm not saying that it is, but wanted to have it officially logged for record. Because to that point, there had been no official logs recorded that equipment malfunctioned that day. Based off of the information I've been provided at this point, I've requested information. That's the only information I've been given. Now, when I talked with Major Buck originally in September, he said, I don't know why it wasn't working. I can only speculate why it was working. But he never gave any reasons why, or even suggestions or even hypothetical answers. He just says, I don't know why. I was explaining to the Major about that on the first day and said I wanted to file an official complaint, which he took out a business card and wrote down the officer's name and date. That's all that he wrote on there. But the reports, the memos, you know, that comes after that, following up on this, is that Manger indicated that the equipment, well, in his official report, was that I never told him what it was about in the first place, even though I did on the first video. Then he makes reference somewhere in that memo saying that the equipment wasn't working properly. And Captain Buck says that the equipment didn't record any audio and list maybe a possible reason or whatever. And then Chief's statement says that it was operator error. So that you've got conflicting information between three different officers. I mean, you got two officers saying that one broken, one malfunction, one says it was operator error. So there is no clear, decisive answer on that other than from what Chief has said, unless he's the final say on that. But you've got three different reports saying different things. Since there is a difference in reports, has there been any follow-ups to ensure that the equipment is functioning properly? That you know
I do not know. You have to check with the chief. My understanding is yes, but you have to check with the chief on that.
Okay. I'll check with Chief. Is that something that you would typically follow up on, or is that something that you just leave up to the police department?
The department takes care of its own equipment.
Okay. Now, if they have equipment problems like that, do they report that to you? I mean,
they may not.
I guess depending on the severity of it.
Right.
Okay. All right. The other question here I was going to ask you was about the phone call, which we saw the records on that. I just, from what I can view here, and maybe you can help point it out to me in case I overlooked it, do you have any records, handwritten, typed, whatever, that indicate, that says anything that you were investigating an open records violation anywhere?
No.
Why not? Because that's what I asked you to do.
Because I make my own notes.
Okay, so how, if somebody wanted to follow up on an open records violation to see if there was, if some random person comes and says, I want to file an open records request to view open records violations in the city of Perry, and you have nothing that indicates that this investigation is related to an open records violation, then how would they get that information?
You have to go back and research them.
Which costs them extra money because of the time that it takes for you to, or whoever, to pull that up. I don't think that's very efficient. But again, you have nothing to indicate it's an open records request, then to me that tells me that you, because nothing indicates it's an Open Records Act violation investigation, that tells me that you didn't actually investigate the open records request like I asked you to.
Mr. Nunn, you can make your own assumptions all you want. They're my notes. It's my process.
But your notes doesn't say it has anything to do with an open records violation.
They don't necessarily have to.
Okay.
They go back and they relate to your complaint when you came to me.
Which is to investigate the open records law being broken.
So they might be on there someplace, but I do not have it specifically.
Scared of Mr. Dunn. What does it say? Private order. That was one thing I couldn't figure out. I tried to read your handwriting here. It says, best I got is it looks like it says private order Herfold or something.
I don't know right offhand.
Private
Back to the
protective
statement
order.
there.
But, I mean, I don't know how, scared of Mr. Dunn, whatever that says there, private access, concern for safety, secure door, fence, or offer, question mark. Duffin was owner or owned contrary to others, advised Ms. Arlington, I believe that's who you have there. Anybody that refers to this one note here that originally was provided in my request for your notes of investigation would have no idea that it has anything to do with an open record violation, because there's nothing to indicate that's what that one was. And again, that was the only thing that was
Since
provided.
it's subsequent to my original report to you, yes, that's right.
Which was your original report, the one that you said that you...
The papers that you asked for and took a look at.
That I saw for the first time on April...
Not the first
13th.
time, the one I sent to you.
Which one do you know?
Which was the findings. Did not find it.
You said that that you found nothing wrong with the with Major Phelps breaking the law. That's when you were referring to?
No, sir. That's not what I said. I said I did not find grounds that he broke the law.
No, I think actually I could probably pull it up, but you said something that you made an assertion in that email too, something about that you couldn't find any reasons or any damages to me.
That's correct.
The law doesn't specify damages. Oh, actually, it already does specify damages. It says by preventing access to those records, making them difficult to access, and frustrating the effort. The damage is a violation of the law, and it says it's a criminal act. And the
When
damage,
you can't get the access, you were able to get the access.
not
You've had
through the-
complete access to all the open records that you have asked for.
Let me ask you this question, and you can choose to answer if you want to or not. Because if somebody came up to you and strong-armed robbed you, snatched your wallet out of your pocket, and walked off, and then came back and said, "Oh, hey, I'm sorry, here's the wallet," they've still committed a crime of strong-arm robbery. Okay, which means that they are still guilty of the crime, just because the fact that somebody else said, "Okay, well, I'll answer for that," or "I'll do that." No, they're still directly guilty of violating that law of strong-arm robbery. Major Phelps prevented that 100% from me filing my open record request that day through that office. Period. He was the one that started the process of not accepting the open record request and telling others not to accept it. Just because you accepted, or the city hall accepted it, does not exonerate him for the crimes of violating the Open Records Act. That's what and I'll leave it at that.
I understand your position. I've understood your position from day one.
Okay. We'll take care of that. My only other question, I guess, I have at this point, and I still want to look over these records a little bit more, is that once somebody comes to you and requests verbally, orally, whichever phrase you want to use there, and in writing, a violation of a law, and ask you to, as the city manager, to pursue charges against an official of the city, or officer, or employee, once they've given it to you in writing, requested for you to press on with the charges on that, are you legally allowed to deny moving forward with that request?
That's not the process that's done.
Right.
If
The process.
If a person comes in, then they are alleging that the law has been broken, and they are desiring to press charges. If it's within my area, then I will investigate.
But you said it was in your area. You made it very firm that.
I thought we were talking in general terms.
No, we're
We
talking
want to
about,
talk specifically for you?
yeah, we're talking about.
Okay, specifically for you.
I mean,
You
who else
came
are we talking
in,
about this whole time?
You asked about this.
Have you been
said-
answering generalizations this whole time?
No, sir.
Okay,
I'm just
I'm
following what you, because you start off with you're somebody. But if we're talking about you, you came in, You indicated your concerns and you felt that the law was being violated.
Mm-hmm.
I went in, I investigated it, and I determined that it wasn't.
Okay, but that's not what I asked. My question is that once I...
No, I will not automatically put into process taking some type of legal action against somebody because a person comes in and says that's their interpretation.
Okay. When we backtrack then, we've already established in this meeting here that the Perry Police Department did not accept my open records request, period. That was established. And
That's
you
what
confirmed
you
that.
said.
And
Yes.
you confirmed that as well.
I guess that may be the case.
And the video shows that
Yes,
they
I
did
know
that.
the video. You're right.
Okay.
You reference it.
Right. Because that's what I have to show that the law was broken. Otherwise, it's my word against somebody claiming that she's upset because some people have posted comments about her on Facebook that she doesn't know if they came from her friends, that has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do, that somebody posted from her friends list a video of her from my videos on her Facebook, and she's scared about that and concerns for her safety from me. That's, like I said from the get-go, I'm trying to work with you guys, and I want to get these issues resolved. I really do. But since this process has happened and started, there's been more open record violations that have occurred since my initial encounter on February 8th over at the Perry Police Department. Like I said, you personally failed to respond in a time frame on one of the requests. Then also, we'll get to that as well too here. I also need to go ahead and submit a open records request with you as well too.
I don't want mine confused with
Right.
yours.
Okay. All right. This is an open records request here. I had sent you an open records request to view your emails that between you and Mr. Holbrook that pertaining to my open records request and correspondence pertaining to these requests. Mr. Holbrook did a blanket denial trying to say that it was attorney-client privilege and that information was not available. I've had to do an extensive amount of research to find other laws other than the Open Records Act that says they're available for viewing, to be able to compile this request to resubmit back to you guys to request that my original request for viewing those emails. And again, this is to view and inspect and photo records of all electronic communications, emails, and written correspondence that deal with the open records request, communications and questions and statements between you, Mr. Gilmour, and Matthew Holbrook pertaining to previous open records request dates of March 1st, 2018 through the current date of the request. The request was to find out if there was any, also I had a request through Mr. Holbrook, well through you that you forwarded to Mr. Holbrook that was denied by him. The request to find out if there was any fees or charges, contracts, or any monetary gains that were submitted, requested, or charged to the City of Perry that Matthew Holbrook and or his affiliates office for answering, preparing, requesting, communicating, or any forms of interaction with open records requests for the City of Perry for the dates February 1st, 2018 through the current date that pertained to me, my email address or the concerned citizen between that specific date.
I don't believe that was denied. I think that was sent to you, and the answer was no.
No.
On the charges and the fees.
The request was sent to him, and he had denied that request, claiming that he was a private business and he had nothing to do with that, which is false, because any government, anytime that you have a private company that has transactions with a government body, those monies or transactions are subject to investigation or inspection.
You would have to take that up with the city attorney, but we go by what he says. But you did ask, and that information was provided to you, and the answer was no.
I had to request a second time, and at the second time,
but you
first
got,
time
you
through,
got
first
your
time
answer.
to the city.
You got your answer.
Okay, but not originally. Okay, and I want moving on here. The reference for the precedence for the records that I was requesting was 50-18-70B2, which talks about what public records are. All documents, papers, letters, maps, books, tapes, photographs, computer-based or generated information. I also want to point out too that emails, according to the Atlanta Legal Aid versus the City of Atlanta, Judge Sears Collins ordered the city to produce the records, rejecting the city's claim that since the records were compiled by the city attorney, they were exempt from disclosure as attorney-client privilege. 40-27-01, all state, county, municipal records shall be open for a personal inspection of any citizen of Georgia at a reasonable time and place, and those in charge of such records shall not refuse this privilege to any citizen. 50-18-B2 states that all documents received by an agency or by a private person, I underline that for him, and for you because I'm sure this will be forwarded to him, or entity in the performance of a service or function or on behalf of an agency. Mr. Hope has already stated that in his reply on April 6th that he performs legal service for the City of Perry, such to include prosecutions of cases for the municipal court brought to by the Perry Police Department or other departments by the City of Perry. Providing general legal counsel to the City of Perry and performing various legal services for the City of Perry as needed. I'm pretty sure that I believe that this confirms and satisfies the performance of service or function on behalf of an agency as stated as a statute. The official opinion 95-1, no attorney-client privilege exists between individuals who are attorneys and employed by the executive agency or other agency officers of the employees. Only communications between the Attorney General's office and agency officials may be protected by the attorney-client privilege. Clayton County Hospital versus Webb, 206. Court found that the private status of loan for corporations did not insulate them from structures of the open records request. 50-14-1. This is one of the reasons why he denied the request as well too, stating that he wasn't part of an agency or authority according to that statute. 50-14-1 is every state department, agency, board, bureau, commission, public corporation, or authority. Mr. Holbert stated in his letter dated on April 6th that he had the authority to prosecute on behalf of the Perry City through the municipal court clerks. Also outlined in the previous response that we talked about that the city confirmed his law firm as the city attorney, and he represents as an assistant city attorney as recorded by the minutes of January 2nd of 2018. So it definitely satisfies the authority and the agency portion of that law. And then again, it goes into the other portion, if my request is denied in whole or part, that it requires justification by reference to the exemptions of this act specifying the code, section, subsection, paragraph. Now, that took weeks and weeks and weeks for me to get this information together. I can't say weeks and weeks, but it took from the moment that he said no on viewing those, which I know that emails are subject to open records. That made me have to go and do extra work just to find more evidence that those are available for viewing. I want to submit, I gave it to you verbally, I want to give this to you in writing as well too, so that you can have a copy of that. I've got a digital copy online, and everything that I stated to you is written there. And the last thing I'd like to leave you with, I don't know if you follow the news very often or not, but I want to let you know that open records violations, in your opinion or not, are serious issues that are facing, you know, it's in the public view at this point. It's all over the news, it's all over YouTube, it's all over different networks and sub-networks. Transparency is something that people demand from our government. We put you in the position that you're in, whether we elected you or you were appointed by an elected official. We pay your salaries. You know, we expect, you know, loyalty, honesty, integrity, and transparency. And when any of those come into question, we do expect and demand accountability. Now, in the news recently, in the city of Atlanta, have you saw what's going on with the open records up there?
No, sir.
They are having the exact same problems that I'm having here. Being denied access to file open records requests with the Perry Police Department, for instance. Delays in responses, not being answered in time. Blanket denials without answering subsections. Not giving out, when there's more information provided, not stating why it was left out. And other examples that I've stated either in complaints or today verbally. But it was submitted to the state attorney's office, and the state attorney general, excuse me, has gotten involved up there, and they have started prosecuting people for those law violations, failures to comply, failures to hold accountable, and the mayor up there issued out a memo because things are getting out of control up there because of all the stuff, all the different violations have been going over a number of years. Now, I'm going to give you this is her official memo that she gave out. Now, understand that the mayor of Atlanta is not the mayor of Perry. I know there are two different things, but I want to give this to you because I'd like for you to look this over with your legal team or whoever you need to look this over with and get ahead of any future problems and help prevent any future problems with open records requests. And I think that this may help you along those guidelines because it implements training, a mandated training to all employees about open records requests. Other than the open records request laws being broken where it says that you have to go to court, they also implemented measures that would require disciplinary action disciplinary actions, suspensions and terminations for failure to comply with open records requests. In my case, it's fallen on deaf ears everywhere I've gone, with them over there, with you so far, and I can't get a straight answer from the city attorney pertaining to certain aspects, anyway, with the city attorney. And you know, like I said from the get-go, I'm trying to work with you to resolve these issues, but I cannot allow me personally to allow the laws to be broken and just sit back and let it be looked over. That wouldn't be right for me. I swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States of America when I signed up with the military back in 2005. And as a citizen, a taxpayer, our monies are going to this, and we're paying to allow people to openly and blatantly break the law. Now, certain aspects of these may sound trivial, or you may overlook, like, oh, well, they just were a couple of days late on the open records request reply. Well, the law specifically gives a guideline of 3 days. Any violations is a violation. Just like if you were driving down there and had a busted tail light out, the officer would write me a ticket for that violation immediately, which I'd have to pay a ticket or a fine because my tail light was out immediately. Here, nothing's happened. I can't even get, with him yelling at me, saying, sign your document, yelling at me, and telling other people, I can't even get an apology. I originally asked for him to correct his statements in his memorandum that he released, because based off the video, which was the whole encounter, he starts off saying, I never told him what happened. And I list exactly in a 10-page report to the chief, exactly each statement and a timestamp of the video that he could refer to exactly to show him where the major misled, misrepresented, or falsified his information. So that chief didn't have to sit there and go back. I made it easy for him. And I couldn't get him to, chief wouldn't make him correct anything. I guess he can't make him do anything. I mean, he's a grown man. But if you have a public document, which is what these memos are, that are incorrect, I understand that you're allowed to make revisions or corrections to that, and that's what I was asking him to do. And the other part was the way that he conducted himself on the first day by telling me that when I asked a question about who does repairs, he said, it's none of your business. And I said, well, as a taxpayer, it is. And he's like, no, you can leave now. That was very disrespectful. And then on day 3, the way that he interacted with me as well, too. The thing is that I didn't come in there shouting, yelling, cussing, screaming, fussing. I was very polite. I maintained my tone. I try to keep my tone mellow when I talk with people, especially in confrontational situations like that, as it started escalating. Because if I raise my tone, it only escalates his up even more. It becomes a shout match, and then it goes into, now I'm assaulting with words or something, and then they move up, and it goes into other stuff. That's why I keep my tone as mellow as possible, because I don't want it to escalate. I try to de-escalate. That did not happen by these 20-plus-year officer that was over there. He escalated the situation. Like I said, and then he prevented access. And I said, I asked him, the original request was to ask him to revise his statements because they weren't accurate. The video proves it. And for an apology, a written apology, is what I originally requested. And then I had asked for the updated training that they be taught and trained on that. You know, just let people know so that we can get this under control and that people are aware so we don't have these issues in the future. But I get a response that no law is broken, no policy has been broken, I'm not going to require them to do any of that. And it's like, to me, it's like a big F-U. We're going to break the law, and there's not a daggone thing you can do about it, and we're not going to hold our guys accountable for it. That's the way it's coming across to me, and to many, many people who've watched the interaction of that day. And again, I posted the whole thing. I didn't cut anything out of the video. I could have edited it and made it look like I was at this perfect angle and everything. I gave it to you exactly how it unfolded that day. And I'm disappointed up to this point in this process of how far we've had it going and how long this is dragged out. I had to wait 7 weeks, or almost 7 weeks, for a chief to complete his investigation into the open record violation. You finished it in, what, 3 days, which, and I'm not trying to be mean, it didn't feel that you really did any investigation based off the notes about the open records law being broken. But at least you had a completion in a few days. He took 7 weeks with all the video, the 10-page report timestamps, a witness statement, that I came and had a meeting with him, just like I had a meeting with you. I had a meeting, gave him the information out loud, recorded, gave him the videos, links, and everything, and it took him almost 7 weeks to give me a reply of no policy violations. He conducted everything right. I was the one being difficult, and you know, I mean, he not only didn't hold his employee accountable, he then tried to insult me by claiming that I was difficult. That I was the reason for the way that the major was behaving. If that's the case, and I'm saying that hypothetically because I don't agree with that statement, if something as little as refusing to give a name and phone number, or to sign a legal affidavit to a complaint, which is not required by their policy nor by law to do, or procedure, because their website says that you can file anonymously. It's what's posted on their website. But if not giving a phone number and name is enough to set him off to that degree, where he's shutting everybody down, that's a concern. Now I can understand if I would come out like, you know, hey, you a-hole, you this, that, and the other, and being like some people, putting my hands in their face and like, you know, and overstepping the line. But I was as courteous as I could have been at that point. And I just feel very disrespected by both the police department and by you for not even holding them accountable for the policy violation, at least for not accepting the complaints on the original day, not accepting the complaints the second day, or any of the provisions, because the provisions of the Open Records Act has many provisions, and there's not one violation that anybody can find. It only takes one non-compliance of any of those provisions for it to be considered a violation. And I pointed out, I don't know, maybe 15 different instances that refer to different things in the Open Records Law, but nobody can find one, can't even see it in one incident that by him not taking it at all, and they refused, period, to accept it that day, that everybody's okay with it. And I'm not okay with it. And again, that's why I'm addressing that with you and you know, going over these notes again, because of more information that I found on April 12th when we had our last meeting. But I do encourage you to look over the mayor's memo that she just put out. If you Google City of Atlanta or Atlanta News or something, you'll see the actual link there. I think it's through ALC or something, and you can click and it'll pull that up as well too. I printed it right off the website. Again, like I said, I'm trying to work with you guys, but I am asking for accountability and transparency is what I'm asking and demanding. And I think I said all I can say today. Was there anything that you wanted to add or address, or any questions that you would like me to answer to maybe further help with future compliance or past violations?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Cameraman, the footage that you have, where can that be obtained?
We will submit this to the city to have as part of their public record. I have to take it and convert it into a video format that they need. So.
Okay, so you're not actually a city employee, you're a
I'm a subcontractor. I'm contracted with ComSouth, which has a contract with the city of Perry for IT work, and I was requested by the city to provide a camera for their public records for this meeting.
Okay. So if I needed to obtain the records, that you'll be submitting those records?
I will be submitting those records to the city.
Okay, so I don't have to go through you. Okay. Actually, that does bring up one other point as far as the fees that the Perry Police Department has assessed for open records requests. The emails, and maybe you can answer this. You are IT, right?
That's correct.
How long does it take to pull up emails? If I say I need
He's not in a position to answer that.
I'm really not in a position to answer that because I'm just the lowest guy in my department. So my boss would be more able to answer that, and so he's the one that's probably been having correspondence with the city on that.
Okay, that's fine. But as long as that gets where I can get access, I'm fine with that.
Right.
What email provider y'all use? Y'all use like Outlook, Gmail, Hotmail, AOL that you use for government?
Outlook currently.
Outlook, and that's what, and I'm very familiar with Outlook because that's what I use in the military and in civil services about too. So yeah, I'm very familiar how Outlook works. But anyway, as far as the fees, I know that you could search. I know for a fact that you can search Outlook without having to have IT guys from ComSouth to come in to pull up emails at the police department. I had asked to view the emails pertaining from February through March that pertaining to my interaction or emails, that anything that had to do with me, and which is an easy search by putting in my last name and first name. You put a comma there, or hit search, boom, it'll pop anything there. Then you put in the email address, and it'll pop up any information related to that as well too. It's a real simple, quick search thing, and anything that falls back off into the archive section is a search box as well too. But they're trying to say that to view those records, it's a 15-hour process for them to pull up the emails for under Outlook, and that the charge is $1,050 to me to gain access to their emails. I filed an open records request through the financial office over here, and the city is already paying for IT service for the police department for IT service. And during the months of February through March, the Perry Police Department did not utilize any of their prorated monthly service at all, which was $2,100 something to $2,000 something. I don't know the exact number. But the request for me to look at the emails, I was assessed a fee of half or slightly over half of their monthly prorated IT service fees. And I don't believe that is correct, because again, it does not take 15 hours to pull up emails that are in or on the computer, and they're supposed to be saved anyway. No emails are supposed to be permanently deleted that pertain to any government functions, and since this is all about open records requests, that's supposed to be maintained as public record. So I would like for you to look into that, for why the public's being charged half a cost of
You're being charged.
Well,
not the public, you. I don't know why, I'd be happy to check in city, but it's not all the public that's coming in. You are asking for a request.
I'm part of the public, so
I
I'm referring to
understand that,
myself. Yes.
but that cost will be translated into a number of people, and it's your open records request.
So it's okay. When I refer to, let me clarify a little bit. Anybody who's requesting the same information that I would requested would be charged 15 hours and the $1,050.
That is my assumption.
Okay. So
If they had a request identical to yours.
right, and that's what I'm saying. So anybody that's requesting to view all records that, like I requested, about the emails that pertained specifically to me and that were on the police department's computers, would have to pay $1,050. Now, I did advise them that I don't think that was legal, or that they were following the law as outlined, and then they made an adjustment. I sent that to them because ComSouth, they are a contractor service. The law does say that it's the person that's in charge of the records of custodian, the lowest paid person that's in charge of keeping those records. The police department keeps those records on their computer. They come over, may have to come access it because nobody in the police department with their bachelor's degrees in criminal justice and detective training or FBI training have the necessary skills to open Outlook to pull up emails. I know you have a online fraud team over there that deals specifically with online fraud, and there's nobody there that's, according to Chief, there's nobody in the police department that has knowledge at all to pull up emails. That's why he's saying that the IT guys from ComSouth has to come, and I don't know how you have detectives in the 21st century that cannot pull up an archive, and somebody with FBI training, that would be Captain Dyke has FBI training background, and I think Manger does as well too. But I find it interesting that nobody has the skill at the police department to do that, and that they have to call these guys in, according to Chief in his response to that request. And I apologize, there is one last thing too. Phone records. I had asked for the phone records. According to Chief, and going back and forth on that, I filed an open records request to view the phone records. to view, not to get copies, just actually look at them, that had the detailed statement showing the phone calls that had occurred between the police department and the court for a very narrow window. I think it was like a 5 to 10 minute window time frame that I was over there. And the fee was assessed of $70.20 just to look at that information. They said they'd have to contact these guys, ComSouth, to come to pull that information, and they assessed that it would take 1 hour for them to pull that information up. I've have phone service. I've had you guys, have had ComSouth before, and I've called, asked for a detailed statement. It took me 6 minutes on the phone. By the time I started talking to them, verifying the information, for them to say, I need a detailed statement. Okay, verify your address again for me. Boom. All right, sir, we'll have it out to you, be out to your house in a few days. All right, thank you. Like 6 minutes. First 15 minutes of any research, of any searches or whatever is free according to the law. I'm being charged an hour fee for a 6 minute phone conversation, or say 15 minutes, say get somebody slow on the phone. But my question is that 99% of all landline providers provide a online account billing that you have the ability to access or log into to view detailed phone statements.
Mr. Gilmour, do you permit me to answer one thing?
No, you
Okay.
don't need to.
Okay. But if you guys are not set up with detailed online detailed online phone service, from my understanding, that you can request to have that added to your online account in order to pull that information up. Now, I know he's the cameraman, he's not speaking on behalf of ComSouth, but that may be something that you could follow with ComSouth to see if that's an option, to have that added to your online account so that you can view detailed statements. Because if that is an option, that doesn't cost the city a $70 fee for them to come out there to pull the records up. And it doesn't cost the person asking for that information $70 to view those records. It's a win-win for both of us. Because if you needed it for whatever reason, because somebody called in a bomb threat and you needed that evidence to prove it, maybe I have a special deal where they hook you guys up for free and just charge us. I don't know. But if it did cost you money, you'd be able to just go online and log in real quick and say, okay, this was an incoming call, outgoing call, or whatever. And it could save you potentially $70 each time you had to go look into it, which could add up over the number of years. So if that's an available option through ComSouth, if that's your phone provider, I would request that you guys ask them to add that option if it's not already available currently and just nobody knows that it's there. And that's all I got. I guess one last chance. Anything that you want to ask me? Or? Okay. Thank you for letting me go over this again. Like I said, I do encourage you to please look over that memo, and I'll give you some time to go over the information. I'll get back to you with that open records request, at least the reply.
Is that different than this open records request?
No, that's that one.
Okay.
That's what I was referring to.
So I can assume that this is what you're submitting?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's one that I read out to you and submitted to you. Right. You can, as it says at the bottom, I gave you the email address again. You can just email me either the reply or the earliest date that we can get together and go over that information. I'm sure you're going to send it. But
All right, well, let me back up here. Are you requesting to go back over whatever the response is that comes to you then? My understanding is this is an open records request. We send you whatever those records are, and that's it.
no.
No? Okay.
Well, you can if you want to. Okay. As long as you're not charging any or assessing any fees, if you want to send me all the information through the email, I'm fine with that. If you want to put it on disk, I'm fine with that as well too. If there's a fees that's assessed with you compiling this Manger or whatever, I don't know how many emails that y'all had back and forth. It may only be one. It may be 3,000. I don't know. But the request is to actually come and view and inspect them at the location. The law indicates that you're allowed to I mean, I can come here and ask to use the internet, and under supervision, I'm allowed to by law to do that under the Open Records Act. So I don't need to use the internet, but to view the emails, I could view the emails as well too from the computers with supervision, and it says with supervision. So whichever one is the easiest way for you guys to compile that information, I'll work with you on that.
Okay.
So I just need a response to which direction we're going, so that way we can either set up a time, or I can know that you're working to gather the information for me, and it's going to take whatever days it takes to get the information together. So at least we have a point in which we can follow up on it, not just left out there to assume stuff. Should be well, again, I appreciate your time and effort.
Welcome.
And let's just try to get this behind us, please. Thanks, cameraman.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's right. There's probably going to be a bunch of other requests coming.
We understand.
No, this is kind of the mayor, I'm not the mayor. But the, yeah, he's not a full-time.
Do you know what he would be in?
I do not actually see the person.
Oh, it says city clerk. Okay.
I'm sorry?
I'm sure she's in her office right at the moment. But, you know, if there's something in particular that I could...
I need to submit some stuff to the mayor, before he gets into that. So that he doesn't get lost or whatnot.
She would be the one. Yeah, I do know that he would be back in.
Do you have her number by chance?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have her number by chance? I can call her
Yes.
up here.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
We'll be back on the 30th of April because we have a work session that night. It starts at 5 p.m. and if you need to see him, she would be the person to call and set up an appointment time for you to get into him directly.
You got paper? Okay. Sorry, I dropped paper down here. Thank you. What camera are you using?
This is a Sony Handycam.
Sony. That's what I have, Sony Handycam.
Oh, nice.
Oh, let's see it on the back. That's the mayor's city cell phone, and then that's her direct number.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Alright. Figured I'd just check in while I'm here. Let's see if we can see if he's gonna save the camera. Walk over here, wait.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And then I'm talking right behind him. How do you do? Good seeing you in a while.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But now that he's not there, go ahead and step there. What do you want to say?
I mean, I'm just trying not to answer anything for...
Wait, I'm not saying, I'm not holding you for contact.
Yeah, because I'm not, I mean, I can't represent ComSouth,
Right.
especially since I'm only a contractor for ComSouth.